There is something you want right now. Maybe a different life. A different body. A job, a relationship, a house, a phone, a more admired version of yourself. And you probably feel like that desire belongs to you. You feel like it came from somewhere deep, private, authentic. But there is an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe you did not want it until you saw someone else wanting it. Maybe it did not begin as a need. Maybe it began as a signal. Someone displayed it. Someone chased it. Someone received attention for having it. And suddenly, without noticing, it became important to you too. Not because you chose it clearly, but because your mind learned to read other people's desire as evidence of value. This video is not about shallow consumerism. It is about something older and more dangerous, the way human beings learn what to want by watching other people want. We like to believe our decisions are personal. We say, I like this, I want that, this is my style, this is my dream. But if you look at your life coldly, many of your desires appeared after contact with a model. You wanted certain clothes after seeing them on someone who looked confident. You wanted a certain body after it became a symbol of discipline. You wanted a career because others treated it like proof of intelligence. You wanted a relationship not only because of love, but because it seemed to confirm that you were chosen. The mind rarely desires in a vacuum. It learns the value of things by observing what place they occupy in other people's eyes. We do not only copy behaviors. We copy hierarchies. We copy maps of importance. We copy the idea that some things mean you won, and other things mean you fell behind. The thinker René Girard called this mimetic desire. The idea is simple, but it changes how you see almost everything. We often do not desire objects directly. We desire through a mediator. We see someone who seems to have value, power, beauty, freedom, or recognition, and then the objects connected to that person begin to glow. The object did not change. The model who pointed to it changed. A table in a store is just a table. But if it appears in the home of someone admired, it becomes taste. A job is just a job. But if the people who have it receive respect, it becomes destiny. A person can seem invisible until others begin to desire them, and then they become magnetic. Human desire is triangular. There is you, there is the object, and there is the other person who teaches you that the object matters. At first, the model looks like a guide. They show you what is worth wanting. But over time, that guide can become a threat. Because if the other person teaches you that something is valuable, they can also stand between you and the thing you now want. The person you admire becomes the person you compare yourself against. The friend who inspired you becomes the reference point that hurts. The creator who motivated you becomes daily evidence that you are late. And here a cruel paradox appears: the more similar the model is to you, the more intense the rivalry becomes. We do not envy someone completely distant with the same force. We envy the person who seems one step away, the person who lives in our world, the person who makes us think, if they could do it, then my lack feels personal. Social media did not invent mimetic desire, but it industrialized it. Before, your models were limited: family, neighbors, friends, distant public figures. Now your mind receives hundreds of models every day. Every image says silently, this has value. This body has value. This relationship has value. This trip has value. This productivity has value. This calm has value. Even authenticity becomes a competition. The platform does not only show you lives. It shows you lives edited to appear desirable. And every time a life receives likes, comments and attention, your brain registers a signal. This produces recognition. So you do not only desire the object. You desire the reaction the object seems to create. You desire other people's gaze landing on you with the same intensity. That is why many desires feel urgent before you possess them and empty after you get them. You buy something and for a moment it feels like something inside you has clicked into place. Then the glow fades. You reach a goal and expect an internal transformation, but the next day you are still you, with one new line in your history. The reason is that often, you did not want the thing. You wanted the promise hidden inside the thing. You wanted to feel enough. You wanted to be seen. You wanted to stop comparing yourself. You wanted to enter a category of people you imagined were free from insecurity. But no object can permanently hold an identity that was not built from within. Borrowed desire always asks for another payment. When one promise wears out, another appears. Envy has a bad reputation because it reveals something we prefer to hide. But envy is also information. It shows you where you believe life exists. It shows you which model has power over your imagination. The problem begins when you confuse that information with an order. You see someone living something and your mind says, that should be mine. But maybe you do not want their life. Maybe you want the feeling you imagine that life produces. Maybe you want the calm, the respect, the security, the desire of others. Envy reduces a complete existence to one illuminated scene. You do not see the hours, the costs, the sacrifices, the loneliness, the exhaustion. You see the symbol. And the symbol accuses you. The market understands this better than we do. It does not sell products. It sells models of being. A perfume does not only say it smells good. It says you can be desired. A car does not only say it moves you. It says you have arrived. A course does not only sell information. It sells the fantasy of becoming unstoppable. Even wellness can sell an identity, the balanced person, the glowing person, the person above ordinary anxiety. The secret message is always the same: buy this and you will move closer to the model. Buy this and the distance between you and that admired version will shrink. But the system needs the distance to never disappear completely. If you ever felt you were already enough, much of the machine would lose its power over you. The danger is not admiration. Admiration can teach. The danger is living with your center outside yourself. When your center is outside, you do not ask, what life makes sense for me? You ask, what life will look valid from the outside? You do not ask, what desire survives when nobody applauds? You ask, what desire will make me look advanced? This is how you begin building a life for an invisible audience. You make decisions based on how they will look, not how they will feel when the room is silent. And a life built to be watched can become strange to the person who has to live it. So how do you break the spell? You do not break it by never looking at others. That would be impossible. You break it by learning to distrust the glow. When you want something intensely, ask, when did I begin wanting this? Who taught me that this mattered? What person appears in my mind when I imagine having it? If nobody could see it, would I still want it? If it brought no status, if it created no envy, if it proved nothing, would it still have value to me? These questions do not destroy desire. They purify it. They separate what is alive from what is borrowed. They separate an internal call from a competition disguised as a dream. Freedom does not always feel like having more options. Sometimes it feels like losing desires that used to organize your life. It feels like looking at something everyone is chasing and admitting, maybe this is not mine. It feels like accepting that some ambitions were elegant ways of asking for approval. And that can be frightening, because a borrowed desire at least gave you direction. But it also kept you trapped in a race you did not remember choosing. Recovering your desire does not mean becoming immune to others. It means no longer confusing their gaze with a compass. It means being able to admire without obeying, to see without copying, to want without turning every desire into a test of worth. The next time you feel you need something to be complete, do not look first at the object. Look at the whole scene. Look at who made it desirable. Look at what promise you placed on top of it. Look at what wound you expected to close. Because maybe the most important desire is not the one pushing you toward what other people have. maybe it is the desire that remains when comparison goes quiet. That desire is usually more silent. It does not shout. It does not perform. It does not need to become content. But if you listen closely enough, it can show you a life that is not built to be envied, but to be inhabited. And that is the signal almost everyone misses.